All right, hey everyone, this is Pranav here again, back to the YouTube channel after many months. Uh, so yeah, today I'll be talking about graduate school applications and graduate school research, the process, and what. Okay, so a little bit of background. So I myself am a senior physics major and astrophysics major at MSU, Michigan State University, and I'm just at the very end of the application process. So back in December or so, or even November and sometimes January, but mainly December, the graduate applications for many U.S. schools are due. So in those applications, you have to submit your transcript with all your grades. You have to submit your personal information, of course, like address, name, whatnot. Letters of rec. So you have to ask two or three professors or research advisors or uh, anyone like that, whoever is important for you and can talk about you in the best way possible. Those are your letters of rec writers. And then after that, you have your resume, which details, for the most part, just any achievements you have from awards if you owned, scholarships, jobs, skills, whatnot. Those are all the things that you have to use to apply. And when you're done with the application process, you wait a few months, very annoying few months. But luckily, it's not too bad. If when you finish applying in December, you get your results back in around the beginning of February to the end of February, sometimes in March. And this is pretty quick because the deadline for your decision is April 15th for the most part. That's when most graduate schools have decided to make the cutoff date. In some cases, there are rolling admissions in which you can be waitlisted or something like that as well. You can go beyond the April 15th date, but for the most part, for most schools, you tend to have that April 15th date for all graduate school application decisions. So, writing the essays themselves, that was the longest component, that's for sure. But the questions were they weren't fully generic, but they were generic enough where you could make 9/10 of an essay look exactly the same from school one to school two, and then change the last tenth part of it, like a paragraph's worth. So in the end, that's not too bad at all. It's actually really easy once you get that generic essay done. Usually they're about like 2 pages or so, so it's not that crazy either. But it's a pretty important essay because you're trying to explain to everyone how good of a student you are, how good of a scientist you are, and why you should be accepted by the school. And then you want your resume fleshed out as much as possible. And as I said before, make sure you choose good letter of rec writers. So at least for me, from my personal experience, I chose my research advisors and a professor. So usually the schools require 2 to 3, so I chose my 2 research advisors and 1 professor for physics. Now, when you apply to the physics or astrophysics or astronomy departments at these different schools, you have to make sure of 2 things. You want to make sure what you want to do, what type of research you want to do, and do you really like these people that are working there. So for both cases, what you want to do is the summer before you start applying to these graduate programs, you want to start, looking up these schools, get a good sense of what they are, what research they do, the people there, and then once you find these people, reach out and email them in the summer, mainly in the summer, because that's when the people are the most free. At least they don't have to teach these crazy classes. They only have to focus on research, so they have a bit more time and willing to talk with you. So you have these discussions with these potential advisors that you might have in the future at these universities. You get to know what they are like, what their groups are like, the hours, what research they do, etc. So I did that myself. I went through maybe like 5 or 6 different colleges and talked to these professors, and it actually really helped. It helped understand, just like from that professor or 2 professors from this one university, is this really a good fit? Do they even have any of the research that I'm interested in? So at least for me, I was interested in nuclear astrophysics research with neutron star mergers. So I was mainly focused on schools that only provide that, or some extension of that. So like since I wanted to do neutron star mergers, a cool extension would be just studying pulsars, for example, which is I was open to. So I chose places like Notre Dame or MSU or UC Santa Barbara, places like that. So that's the research component of it. And if you're thinking about applying to the astronomy departments, mainly, there's a weird trick, which is that you should mainly just apply to the physics field, or the physics department, because if you're working the physics department, there's an extremely high chance that you'll get the chance to work with one of the astro faculty or do astrophysics related stuff. So because the astronomy parts, they're really, really tough, in all honesty. There's like maybe like 9 spots because astronomy is always small. Physics is much, much bigger. And they're pretty interlinked. Like at MSU, they're all under the same department. It's called Department of Physics and Astronomy. So you get to work with the astro folks as well as the physics folks. So it's pretty nice. Yeah, like in most places I said, they don't have any sort of like pure astro department unless it's really big. Like Princeton has like its own astrophysics department, but most places don't. Another important thing to understand is that the schools you're looking at, you don't look for prestige, or like don't focus on prestige. Prestige is really important for the rest of your life, sure. Like because when you say to someone, "Oh, I went to Cambridge University," it really helps, sure. But you have to make sure: will you be happy at this university? Will you enjoy the research that you're doing, and do you think you'll make a difference? Can you even have a good connection to your advisor? Right? These are the questions you want to ask. And if the school has a prestige part but doesn't fill in the other blanks or the other circles, then you don't want to go to the university. If you won't be happy there, then don't go there. Right? That's the basic idea, of course. Guess what it takes. I mean, in terms of like what you need to apply is what I said before, letter of rec and stuff like that. But in terms of like the rigor or like how good you have to be, definitely don't want to be like a failing student when you apply. You can't have like a 2.0 GPA and expect to get into many grad schools, if any, right? That's a harsh reality, right? There's a small, very slim chance, but grades are pretty important. So you want to have a pretty decently high GPA. Like on a 4.0 scale, having something like a 3.5 is pretty nice. And with the GRE coming to a close, like a lot more and more schools are going against using the GRE in their admissions. Like MSU is just kind of like deleting that, at least for the astronomy department. Like it's gone, right? So since the GRE is not really emphasized as much anymore, unless like the hardest places, like the craziest places, having a grade is really, really important. Having a research experience is also really, really crucial these days. And if your university doesn't have research that you can even do, REUs are really good. So research experiences for undergraduates, so it's called, or SULIs, which are same principle but with like national government labs. They give you a lot of money. You get like a guaranteed research position for 1 summer. You do a lot of work. It's pretty good. So if you don't have like good research at your university, or even if you do, right, you want to always try to work somewhere different, experience something new. You should always apply to those things. Yeah. So I guess for me, I was the decisions part is where I'm at right now. I've gotten most of my acceptances or declines. I was thinking between University of Notre Dame or University of Santa Barbara, which are drastically different in America. Right, one is in Indiana, the other one's in California, and the weather is certainly really different. That's for sure. But it's not only that, right? The research is drastically different. The people who you can work with, the faculty sizes, the class sizes, the environment, and that's just in the university. You also want to make sure you think about how would you have fun or would you enjoy yourself outside of university. You want to have some sort of work-life balance present. Like certainly, like in University of Santa Barbara, for example, you have the city right next to you. You have LA that's pretty close to you. I believe it's LA. Yeah. So you have a lot of things to do, and for Notre Dame, for example, you have South Bend, Indiana, which is like surrounded by loads and loads of corn. So there's like a drawback there in terms of if you're not that type of person where you enjoy just I guess nature. Corn is a better way to put it, and you want that city life, like, or you want that rural life. You have to consider those things as well. It's not just about the school. There's other factors that's important. But yeah, the thing that's just my take on graduate school and admissions and how to tackle it to the best of your ability. Make sure you start pretty early, like thinking about it in terms like from the start of the summer before you start applying. Speak to your advisors, like your counselors from your physics department if you can. They'll give you more tips, and then from there you just start researching into it and apply. Just hope for the best, right? Fingers crossed. Okay. All right. Well, see you next time.